obscure world of parking. We use it every day, but have we really capitalized on the intricacies of our industry? In this podcast, the Parking Network will go behind the scenes and talk to industry professionals about all things parking, from the horizon of evolving technology and even stories of the old days. We hope to encourage and inspire operators and property managers alike to look at parking through a new lens. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Our Parking Industry Podcast. I'm Krista Olien, and I'm here with Leigh Thomas from TPN. We have a guest today, Graham Haldeman from Hub Parking. He is the CEO and General Manager, and we are so excited to have him here today. So Graham and I met for the first time at the NPA Fall event out in Scottsdale, and it was delightful. So I knew we needed to have him on the podcast. One of the things that intrigued me was his vast history and experience in different areas and niches in the parking industry. So we are so glad to dive into that today and let Graham share some of his knowledge. So let's get started. Graham, how did you enter the parking industry? Do you have an interesting story?
Yeah, before we get kicked off, first off, we met at Glow, I think, Golf, okay? And it was a really awesome experience. But primarily, I started off and cut my teeth as a valet. A buddy got actually hit by a car, which is not the best story, but in Boston. And when he was on essentially a recovery table, he handed over his position to me, and that was in 2005. So that's kind of how it kind of evolved from straight from a valet while attending college, and then moved on up through operations, through operators like Laz Parking and Ultimate Parking, worked on the SP Plus side. And so the industry kind of looks really simple, I think, from the outside, but it is quite complex in how it's moving forward.
Absolutely. So you touched on the complexity of parking. Is that what's kept you here, or is there something else?
Yeah, and honestly, it is the people. I mean, you touch revenue, you touch real estate, but ultimately you touch technology one way or another. But it's truly about the people that kind of kept me in this, and it's always shifting and evolving. So it's something fresh every day.
How about a mentor? Have you had a mentor along the journey that has been encouraging to you or taught you the good path to walk in?
I can't count the amount of mentors that I've had. I mean, really the entry level mentor is where I would consider the biggest strength is learning from the people that you've worked with. You know, some are executives, operators, technicians, customer service, but it's really the people who challenged me. So the biggest mentors are the people that give you that constructive feedback in order to enable you to grow. And I think that's what makes this industry so great, is because it's not just one mentor who teaches it all. You learn from everyone collectively.
And people are here, like in this industry, for their careers. There's not a lot of people coming in and then people going out. There are people that they started in parking as a valet on accident, if you will, and then they're here until retirement. And that's always been so interesting to me, the longevity of people's careers and how they establish those relationships that are long-term. One of the things that struck me about the WLF leadership retreat where we met was that people had been going to that for years, and the relationships, it was like a family reunion. And it's just so interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it doesn't matter if you were an operator, if you were a vendor, if you were anything involving the parking industry, you have an influence in it, right? And it becomes this longevity of a career that you didn't even know was there before. So me working in first hospitality as a Bell concierge for a few months, and then shifting to a double elevator garage in a high-end luxury building, universities, hospitals, airports, all of these experiences kind of shape us. And throughout this journey, it moves us sometimes state to state. Primarily, I've been on most of the East Coast, right, throughout that journey from the New England area all the way down to probably about Northern Virginia. But it's brought me in places like Chicago and LA and all across the map. So it's been a really fun journey.
A lot is changing in parking. So while we have this longevity of personalities and people that are in the industry, a lot is changing. We do have these outside influences, new technologies, all of these things. Now that you are in a technology role versus an operations role, what do you see?
I think operators are asked to do a lot more than ever, right? You have mobile payments, ticketless parking, self-service. AI is now a big buzzword, but it's reality of where we are today. integration, analytics. Really, the biggest part, I think, in the big shift is coming together and seeing kind of the customer and the operational journey without complexity. It has to be more simplified, but things are shifting so quickly, but it doesn't fit every single use case. So you might see a completely free flow environment, but there's lobbyists now involved, right, that are blocking some of these items because of the privacy, which is a very good thing in certain cases and also very restrictive on the other cases. So sometimes it can be a negative layer, but solutions can add more complexity. And that's why it needs to become more simplified and more unified. And that's why like WLF or IPMI, inner traffic, when everyone gets together collectively, I think it's having that open ecosystem and that open ability to really all of us together shifting people and how we think in the technology, not the other way around.
Can you give an example of how a technology or a convention has developed a sense of cohesiveness in the parking industry? Something we see a lot is a fragmentation. So what have you seen that creates a cohesiveness, or what do you think could increase our cohesiveness?
Well, one, it's vendors talking to other vendors, right? It's also talking to our customers. But for just an example of another conference, which is called the AGTA, which is the Air Ground Transportation Association. It's very, very small, maybe about 121 last year attended, I think 180 this year. It'll be in San Francisco, and I'm not here advertising, I promise. I just really enjoy it. And what I like is, even though there's a lot of vendors that attend, the primary objective is all about how to make ground transportation function better for airports specifically. And so we all have a buy-in. We all talk about things openly, but it's not about who pushes what technology. It's about what can we provide better customer and better operational experience. At the end of the day, we're all going to leave our house and we're already going to know where we're booked potentially, right? We're creatures of habit. So we always want to park in those same parking spaces. We always want to go to the same store. We know what we like. We know what we dislike, but we don't know what everybody likes and dislikes, right? And so collectively, we want to find out the best solution to provide that journey to make it like a seamless experience. And that doesn't mean just technology wise. That just means an offering. How can we make things more simplistic? And complexity is real these days. You have a lot of, let's say, the consolidation of the B2C is happening right now. Everyone wants to own the payment space because you own the end user. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But you have 4, 5, 6 different choices of who's primarily pushing this. And this is, your Spot Hero, your Uber, awesome companies like Metropolis, Flash, Arrive, they're all focused on that B2C and that journey. And getting together collectively creates a cohesive environment that ultimately we want it to be smooth, whether it's not just on the access control side, not just on public transit, not just on parking. So we're shifting very quickly we went from IPI to IPMI, and we're seeing that shift even further over to basically a big connected solution that's truly after the customer and operational journey. It's not there yet. It's a primary focus of what we do here at Hub, but ultimately it's not just what about Hub does, it's what can we all do together.
And what does that look like from the parker's perspective? So if I'm a creature of habit, my expectations are X, but you being a creature of habit, your expectations are A. How does that look, and how do we meet all of the parker's needs with this like full stack approach to that movement of people?
Yeah, disconnected technology creates operational and user complexity. It sounds like it's complex, but it's not. People have a choice, and those choices are okay. When you're restricted to go to one specific, let's call it, solution, you don't have choice any longer. And so as we can see the consolidation on the B2C side, you see that choice being consolidated into smaller and smaller, which makes our choices and what we can do more limited. So Not everyone is going to have an app on their phone and want to go in and out. Not everyone is going to have the ability to pay, let's say, on street by pay by phone, or you go to a kiosk, right? So you do need additional, yes, complexity can be good as long as the choice is seamless throughout. And we can't do that unless we're all talking.
Well, you mentioned it a moment ago. You mentioned AI in one of your thoughts. And we know that AI is currently in use across the industry. How are you seeing AI being used, and where is it falling short? What improvements or advancements are you looking for to better the parking industry?
Well, from a machine learning perspective and license plate recognition and getting the accuracy so you can improve or have a hybrid of revenue collection, let's say that it's a free flow model, right? Here we are in a free flow environment. That doesn't equal 100% revenue collection, right? Because you're going to need some sort of API or enforcement. So maybe you gate it or not gate it. That's just talking about machine learning, identifying the car, identifying people, helping with good data to provide the best journey. That is important, and that is moving along really, really well. Where I think operators can see patterns and forecasts kind of demand, it's really important. You can identify certain exceptions and make, let's say, faster decisions. But if it's not applied to the customer and it's applied to, let's say, just primarily generation of revenue or data collection, we have to be able to use these tools in the right way with the right privacy that people agree to. And what you do need with AI is clean data. And so if your foundation of your organization is not clean, it does not have that nuts and bolts to be built onto, it's only going to add more complexity and disconnected systems, as we want them to have more connected systems in, let's say, in the operational context, right? So I think summarizing in more, AI is only useful if it supports the operation, and it's only strong as the platform and the data that's behind it. So you not only need a strong operation, but you need a vision and how to use it, and your data has to be clean to get the best output.
I agree. Well, we work in data all the time. One of the things that we talk about is how every single operation that we come across, the data that we're able to retrieve from that, because we look at operations nationwide, the data we get from each of those is different. Even if it's the same equipment, it's different. And we have to learn, because we still are very manual in what we do. And we kind of pride ourselves on that a little bit, because we go into the transactional line items and pick them apart. And that's what makes us who we are. So whenever we do that, it's really interesting to see how each different technology or operator is preparing and presenting their data, and the challenges that provides to the asset owner and the property managers, and how there's a disconnect there on communication between what's happening in the facility that can help them as the property managers or asset owners make the decisions that they need to make. And so who's providing that interpretation? So do you have any thoughts on that concept, what property managers and asset owners need as far as data?
Again, this is just a personal opinion, but right now, AI helps to identify a signal, right? A really strong guesstimate to what it is. But as of today, people still need to understand the operation, and each operational complexity changes with every use case that's important to the asset owner or the customer journey. So we're moving and shifting into a world of, let's say, an operational intelligence layer that's not ready yet. And that's something that we are shifting and working towards very quickly and expanding on. But people still need to understand the operation first, right? It's AI is used as a signal, or it's as a benefit to enhance or speed or become a little bit more agile. Let's say on the analytical side, when you're running these financial audits, or you're looking at event and weather or occupancy. But AI right now should not be, let's say, it should support judgment. It should not replace judgment yet. It's known to make mistakes. Again, if you don't have the clean data, the biggest important part is you have to scrub the data in order to analyze. And I think you guys know that firsthand, especially on the auditing side. There's a lot of data out there. But you can compare, let's say, in a doors opening or a garage door opening to how much revenue you collect, but it's not related because that's a stairwell door, right? And the output of that could say, well, hey, we're collecting $5 for every time someone opens the stairway door, but that doesn't improve efficiency on the operation side.
Yes, very interesting. What do you think, if you were to guess, what do you think the implementation of successful AI, like what percentage is successful across the industry? Where do you think we are right now?
It's unknown, right? I think that you have a lot of different companies that are focusing on, including ourselves. The success in operations and forecasting, I think, is been a big improvement. Machine learning and the knowledge you can gain from that data has been excellent. What you do with that information and how you use it is, I think, where we're in this lull, because there's this operation changes from every single entry and every single exit or every single gate, every single facility. Maybe it's free flow. All this data can be used. Who's using the end data and why is what truly matters. Mm-hmm. Every single company will start saying, okay, we can utilize, let's say, a AI in order to assist people in lane, even if it's free flow, even if it's by your phone, even if it's on a loudspeaker, by a telephone. It doesn't matter the technology side of it. At the end of the day, if it does not understand that operational use case, it will never support it. And for example, my son was sick. I called CVS Pharmacy, right, to check up on his prescription. And I had to go through just mashing the 0 button, being like, help me. And so I can only think of the end parker journey of trying to recoup their money where they didn't park. They left for some reason. Something didn't work on the, let's say, machine learning side of the LPR camera, right? It's an open lot. It was a rainy day. There's an exception transaction. However it works, it's not perfect. And so if you solely rely on that and where we are today, I see that it's really good for consolidation of forecasting of data, but it needs to have variable understanding of people. And that yet is not there.
Mm-hmm. We will always be an industry that was founded on customer service. And so to get away from that is not the right move, but to use AI or whatever technology to our benefit so that we can be better stewards of customer service, I think will be the sweet spot once we get there.
I agree. I think that's why I brought up it's all about the customer. It's all about the journey that the customer goes through. It's all about the operational journey for whoever is managing it. If it's self-managed, if it's through an operator, it needs to be best for the asset owner at the end of the day. It's not just about revenue collection. You want people to return, right? And so however we move forward together, and that's the future that I see, there's a really great benefit to it. You have to use all the tools. And to do it, you need to understand that end user.
So Graham, would you tell us a little bit about Hub? What is unique about Hub? What pain point is Hub relieving in the industry? We know this is not an advertising podcast, but still tell us about your company and what's going on.
Yeah, and there's been a big shift. I think the industry's been shifting very quickly, and there's been this familiar cycle that we talk about of replace and upgrade. It used to be once every 7 years, then it was extended to every 9 years, and then replace again. And meanwhile, customer expectations continue to rise, right? And so the answer is not just a disconnected tool that essentially evolves, let's say, every 7 or 8 years after replacement. The answer is a connected platform, and that's where we see Hub. It's where JMS and our Hub ecosystem sits. And so the main thing to remember is it's no longer just about parking gates and tickets or payments. It's becoming a connected platform built around operations. Yes, data. Yes, different types of technology, but ultimately the customer journey. And that's all we're focused on right now, besides improving our operations every day.
So Hub is a part of FAAC. Can you tell us how the history of FAAC came about, how it's influenced the company that Hub is today, and kind of where you see your role as the CEO and general manager playing into that?
Yeah, FAAC started in 1965. It was started in Italy, and it was built on a global foundation of basically access control, parking technology, gates, shades, anything and everything from the fare collection doors that go open and close right when you're at an airport. And over time, truly from 1965, they expanded into the parking through companies like ZAG and Data Park and Hub and other companies that we've purchased throughout. So we bring insane amount of history into the parking today for just equipment and software and service. Yes, but truly the main focus is on the global connected platform. And that's something that FAAC supports Hub in, is that global approach and mindset and together. And so we're not just meeting just across North America, we're meeting at a global level on a consistent basis. And that's important, is to have that crossover from not only our access control division, but also from our parking division, which is evolving into much greater things across North America.
Well, this podcast is about providing knowledge and resources for all of our listeners in the parking industry. So, Graham, you have a really unique position as the CEO of this company that it sounds like your vision is really about the customer journey, but also this global cohesiveness. So, Graham, from your perspective, what do our listeners need to know and what do they need to do?
I think that truly it's we as different companies that are vendors are pushing their technology. When you have if you're not an open platform, then no one's open to conversations. You are seeing a greater vastness in, let's say, the integration piece, where you can get a piece of this or a piece of that. You can link up with a strategic partner, but the voices are always heard at every conference and every show. Every time we meet with a customer or a client, right, it's really important that we become partners in this. So it doesn't matter which platform you happen to be on. It's that open spokenness, the way our country should be running, right, in the United States, in my opinion, is that open cohesiveness of we need to speak up, we need to engage more. So we have tons of surveys that go out to kind of broach this subject. And Karen Mackey, too, will be leading a lot of this initiative on our side and getting into the forefront of people, because it's not just about selling SaaS or PaaS. It doesn't matter which model you have. It's listening and learning and evolving together. And that's kind of something that's really important. So sure, anyone can come to IPMI, they can send emails, but I think it's these types of conferences, and sometimes it's these smaller conferences where these true engagements happen, because this is where things occur. And I referred to the AGTA earlier, which is a very, let's say, smaller in attendance, but these smaller shows that we're seeing across the United States and Canada are really bringing these conversations forward. How can customers and end customer get engaged? Well, they're doing it it's mostly complaining sometimes, right, with their frustration of what they're dealing with in the operation. And so then it goes to the operator, and from the operator, some of those things could be related to legacy parks. It could be related to the operation or customer service. So people are being vocal, but we don't hear the good things that are happening a lot of times. And so that's why I know there's a myriad of blogs right now. But I think a cross communication between different conferences, podcasts, getting people together more in a group. And let's say TPN puts together the ability for people to have a focus across all different airports or all different mixed use facilities and start these types of conversations with leaders in our industry or from the end user. Put some people in a room. You don't make it too big. You do a little test and you just repeat until it's refined. And now everyone either gets onto the journey or they're off of the journey, right? They're no longer involved because they're not willing to make that shift.
Well, there's that continual impact from all directions until something is solid and, all the kinks have been worked out, if you will. Mm-hmm. You've talked about the global approach several times, and that is really interesting to me because I feel like in the United States, we do things very differently than
we do
European or South American or
absolutely.
Yeah, all the different places. And every place is unique in their own way. So what do you see other countries or other places around the globe doing better than we're currently doing in the United States? And what do you see the United States currently doing better than other countries across the world?
Yeah, this is a question direct for myself. I can't speak for the entire globe, but I can give you at least my interpretation, right? If you looked at where EMV was, credit cards, and how they were processed, or wasn't adapted into the United States was much behind those times. When you look at the simplicity of the license plates and how they operate within Europe, you're going to get higher read rates. Obviously, with machine learning and where LPR is today, getting a 99% read rate and having it be very accurate, you have those functions and they've led it. But I think where the uniqueness is on customer and client expectations. Your partner's expectations are completely different no matter where you go. And what's not really pretty prevalent across the globe is, let's say, access to more of a Netflix subscription model, right? Where it's really adopted here in the United States, where that could push out in the future. And so as I think the biggest part is just starting the conversations globally. What we do uniquely is we have about 90 developers across the globe, but in Pittsburgh, I have 20 that are just fully dedicated just to North America, because our development and what we do could be different than what you're doing around the globe. But we have access to all global developers. So they're working on the same things that get pushed out across the globe. And although some function or feature might not be the best, let's say in South America, for instance, it's still adopted and it's there to be used. So I think having that open eco-ness, having those conversations, not everything is going to align. Absolutely, it never will. Right. But the ability to have that type of flexibility to understand the needs of where Italy is compared to, let's say, Canada, right? Those are two different use cases. US has led a lot on maximizing revenue and turn, and it's more profitability focused, I think, more so from European, which has more been on the customer journey and exceptions are okay. Pay later, right? So if you look at some non-legacy park solutions, there's an application that allows you to just pay after you leave. And in the States, that necessarily people will be like, great, sure, I'll pay never, right? So I think it's just different mindset. It's what we do really well is we really want to be the best of the best on the customer service side. We want everyone to have a voice. I think Europe does that too, but customer service specifically, I think, was a really big piece of North America. Where did that start? I don't know. Advertising, right? The ability to want to be the best. If you look at the different models of why was Chick-fil-A successful, right? It was their customer service that drove a lot. Food is excellent, sure, but you had your choices at that point, right? But I forget the main line that once in a while when I take my kids, but they're always thanking me.
My pleasure.
Yes, my pleasure. Absolutely, my pleasure, right? Is there anything else I can assist you with today? This is something you would expect from when I used to work or I interned at Novartis Consumer Health, kind of like a Johnson & Johnson or a Merck, right? That was the biggest piece, was the customer service side journey. And you're seeing that not only are we doing this from an operation, at least in my 12 years in operations, that was such a big push, right? You're getting in lane, you're handing out coffee, you're understanding your clients, you're understanding your customers. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in Europe, but I think we are kind of really customer service focused because we want that repeat, experience. We want the same thing over and over. And I think Europe has that too, but it's just, what does success look like when it comes to fast food? It's customer service and how fast can you get out the door? Unfortunately, sometimes there's shortcutting on the end product. And that's something that I don't think Europe necessarily does from a food perspective, right? So,
It's wildly different, yet wildly the same. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. And you, as the CEO and general manager, are in charge of a lot of people. How do you manage so many people, so many departments, and do that successfully?
I think it's all about first, when I first arrived at Hub, the big thing was to look at the leaders in the room, right? You're only as good as your technicians. You're only as good as your service providers, your dispatch, whoever is there at the boots on the ground. You're the first and last impression, right? That's what we used to say in hospitality, especially on the valet side, right? You want that service side. But that all comes from different mentorship, and you're only as good as your leader. And so managing, currently we have 171 people across North America. We have 1,500 locations, maybe about 10,000 worldwide. I'm only responsible for that 1,500, which is a huge bucket and a lot. But it's all on customer and retention of our employees. So I think the biggest thing is if your employees feel like they're having fun at work, yes, it is a job, but they understand their responsibilities. They need to know the vision, but you have to rely on proper training and being aligned on your standard operating procedures. That has to not come from top down. Sometimes that comes from bottom up. And so when I arrived, we together collectively kind of flipped the script a little bit. Nothing is always perfect, right? You have to work through it. But the biggest thing is the leadership and what those leaders do.
A lot of us here at TPN are former teachers. And so we have a term in pedagogy that is student-led learning versus teacher-led learning. And I've heard just in this conversation alone, you talk about how there needs to be more conversations across the industry, people getting together and actually talking. And I think you also, it sounds like you facilitate that within the group of people that you're leading, that you want them to have the conversations. It's a collective idea that then gets put, into place and into use, and the use case is then applied, and then adjustments are made from there through that constant conversation and encouragement to speak up. And if something's not working, let's talk about it, right?
Yeah, some of the greatest ideas don't just come from the leaders. It's definitely the people, surrounding them. And I'm very fortunate to have just such a really passionate team that care about each other, right? In our corporate office, we have roughly 60. We have some shared services and are also in our Columbus office on the supply chain. And they really need to feel like they have a lot of the solutions for improving either the customer journey, their journey. Doesn't matter whose journey it is, it's all of our journey collectively. And they need that buy-in. And because that's what makes, I think, a company great, is that collective buy-in and the same vision.
All right, Graham, our time's about up. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your vision or your seat in the parking industry? What are you seeing? What are you hoping for?
Yeah, I think there's just one main theme that's happening, and it's truly that parking is no longer just gates, tickets, or payments, right? It's becoming a truly connected platform that's built around operations. It's about, yes, the data and the technology, but truly the customer journey and the operational journey. And whoever the partner is, they're true partners. You're dedicated to them to the end. So I think that's really important. It doesn't matter who's on what side, whether it's the VAR side, whether it's let's say a park side, if it's an integrator, if it's an auditor, we all need that connection. And because together we can make some big changes together.
Absolutely. Very well said. We have enjoyed our time here chatting with you, Graham, and we appreciate your time. We hope that you had fun too. And thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and providing some resources. We need to start looking into some of those smaller organizations that host events across the country close to you. Get involved, have those conversations, think about what the future holds and how you want to impact the future. So thank you for joining us here on this episode of the Our Parking Industry Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you next time. To quote one of the greatest business minds of our time, Charles Munger, he said, "The best thing a human can do is help another human being know more." Here on Our Parking Industry Podcast, we want to provide knowledge and resources. If you heard something that sparked your curiosity in today's episode, please reach out on our socials at TPN Consulting. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. See you next time on Our Parking Industry.